Hey, bringing you another video exposing an Antichrist. Today, let's expose an Antichrist. Which Antichrist? KORIHOR. We read in Alma 30, verses 12 through 15, some of the things that KORIHOR believed and what he was doing. And this Antichrist, whose name was KORIHOR, and the law could have no hold upon him, began to preach unto the people that there should be no Christ. And after this manner did he preach, saying, O ye that are bound down under a foolish and vain hope, why do ye yoke yourselves with such foolish things? Why do ye look for a Christ? For no man can know of anything which is to come. So in this exposing of this Antichrist, we are going to name and label the ideas into belief systems or ideologies and realms of philosophy. And this we are labeling rationalism. This we do in an attempt to label these things that we can make sure that we are not falling into these belief systems and being led by Satan to our own destruction. So why do ye look for a Christ? For no man can know anything which is to come. That is rationalism, which we will explain further later on. How do ye know of their surety? Behold, ye cannot know of these things, ye do not see. Therefore ye cannot know there shall be a Christ. That is rationalism once again. The Antichrist deceives many. Let's look deeper into this in verses 17 and 18. And many more such things did he say unto them, telling them that there could be no atonement made for the sins of men, but every man fared in this life according to the management of the creature. This would be humanism. Therefore every man prospered according to his genius. Naturalism or Darwinism or organic evolution, which share very similar ties, and that every man conquered according to his strength, egotism. But this could also be naturalism. And whatsoever a man did was no crime, relativism. And thus he did preach unto them, leading away the hearts of many, causing them to lift up their heads in their wickedness, or to take pride in their wickedness, to have it as their object. Hedonism. Yea, leading away many women and also men to commit whoredoms, telling them that when a man was dead, that was the end thereof, nihilism. Let's explore these belief systems. We've used all these fancy terms. Let's look deeper into these fancy terms. Rationalism is any view appealing to intellectual and deductive reason as opposed to sensory experience or any religious teachings as the source of knowledge or justification. So all is justified, all knowledge is gained by intellectual and deductive reason. When we know that the Spirit is the source of all truth and will give us greater knowledge, and that we cannot see unless we have been spiritually born, we will not be able to spiritually reborn, understand spiritual things, but by the Spirit. Humanism is an outlook or system of thought attaching prime importance to human rather than divine or supernatural matters. Humanist beliefs stress the potential value and goodness of human beings, emphasize common human needs, and seek solely rational ways of solving human problems. Humanism, I feel like, has infected, especially the covenant people of this day, because we seek to solve our own problems through human ways, instead of calling on God for mercy and power from God, and believing that God will do His work, and acknowledging our nothingness before Him, we make lists and try to better ourselves by our list making. And not that making lists and having goals are bad, but we miss something when we make the human the greatest power, when we should call upon God, because He has all power. Naturalism, the philosophical belief that everything arises from natural properties and causes, and supernatural or spiritual explanations are excluded or discounted. One of the biggest things is organic evolution. That is a naturalistic idea set of how life began and developed. It is the theory that more recent types of plants and animals have their origins in other pre-existing forms, that the distinguishable differences between ancestors and descendants are due to modifications in successive generations. And surely there is modification within a species, but does species really turn to other species? And naturalism, adopting organic evolution under that umbrella of naturalism, is a way to explain God out. And the way KORIHOR and Darwin both thought of it was the survival of the fittest. And that with people, this is not a good thought system. This is what led to Hitler's ideology. The survival of the fittest. Some races aren't fit for survival, is what Hitler and many other eugenicists would declare, and this is born or allied with the idea of naturalism and organic evolution. Egoism. This is a large part of Sigmund Freud's teachings, which pervaded. I remember taking Psychology 101 at a community college in my early post-high school education, and I was taught Sigmund Freud, and it's a little disturbing that so much is based of our opinions and mindsets are based on these false teachings that contain mostly elements of false teachings, that Satan has put his chains all over this world, and that we, through our belief systems, are going astray from God, in my opinion, and we need to turn to Him and learn from Him to be freed from these ideologies, these belief systems. Psychological egoism, the most famous descriptive position, claims that each person has but one ultimate aim, his or her own welfare. Ethical egoism claims I morally ought to perform some action if and only if and because performing that action maximizes my self-interest. Freud in 1905 believed that the life was built around tension and pleasure. Freud also believed that all tension was due to buildup of libido or sexual energy, and that all pleasure came from its discharge. The ego and superego develop in order to exercise this control and direct the need for gratification into socially acceptable channels. Gratification centers in different areas of the body at different stages of growth, making the conflict at each stage psychosexual. Very sexualized, Sigmund Freud. These kind of things, even Ezra Taft Benson calls Sigmund Freud as one of the false teachers to be aware of. Relativism is huge. It plagues our people and the whole world this day. The relativism is the doctrine that knowledge, truth, and morality exist in relation to the culture, society, or historical context, and are not absolute. You have your truth, I have my truth. That's relativism. Nihilism, the rejection of all religious and moral principles in the belief that life is meaningless. Do what you want because we're all going to die and it doesn't matter anyways. Hedonism is a philosophy that argues seeking pleasure and avoiding suffering are the only components of well-being. It is the ethical theory that pleasure, in the sense of satisfaction of desires, is the highest good and proper aim of human life. And I am so sad to say I feel like this pervades in our society today so much. We are very hedonistic, where Christ took up the cross and suffered for us and lived for his Father. We live for our own self-gratification, and that becomes our highest good. And if anything's uncomfortable, we want to leave immediately. When Christ, all of his life, sought to do things for others, knowing they would be uncomfortable for himself. I hope that these ideas helped. I hope that we can all really study these, learn them, and not be deceived by them, because the original Antichrist, Lucifer, will use these belief systems to deceive and lead us astray. Wickedness never was happiness, and it never will be happiness.